Is it recording? It's recording. All right. Hi, guys. This is the Spirits Vessel weekly astrological reading. I am Jate with spiritsvessel.com and the Spirits Vessel YouTube channel. And here is a cat that wants to be very involved in what I'm doing. So, which is especially apt because we're in Leo season. I'm surrounded by cats right now. So let's get into this chart. So, very interesting. We start off this week. So I'm recording this on a Tuesday. We started off on Monday with a very big shift. Two different things happened. Jupiter went out of retrograde, which is an amazing blessing for Sagittarians out there. I am a Sagittarius, and when Jupiter goes out of retrograde for us, we start to really experience all that luck that we are kind of stereotyped as having. And when Jupiter, our ruling planet, goes retrograde, we can kind of tend to be in a little bit of mud. Doesn't really feel like things are moving forward for us during this time. And when Jupiter goes out of retrograde, you know, Jupiter is that planet of growth and expansion and travel, anything that's going to expand you. So traveling is definitely going to expand your consciousness, because when you go somewhere else, you can't help but get some more awareness that you didn't have before. And so, you know, when Jupiter is in its home planet, so Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, so Jupiter is in its full power. When we have that, Jupiter is very powerful, so it wants to give us tons of blessing. It wants to expand our consciousness. It wants to, you know, really be like, okay, you want to dream big? This is how big it could possibly get, which is really awesome. Now, when Jupiter, I'm sorry, baby, you're going to have to go down there. Now, when Jupiter goes retrograde, the blessings we get are more internalized. So, like, let's say, you know, you're trying to buy a house or something, and in a way that can expand your consciousness, right? And then all of a sudden the deal went through right as Jupiter goes retrograde. Well, retrograde times are a really good time to kind of sit back and understand, you know, maybe I'm not ready for this, or maybe this isn't something that I wanted. Maybe I thought I would be feeling better in the having of it, and not realizing that what I was actually looking for was to travel. So the deal falling through was actually a blessing in disguise. Those are the types of blessings you get when Jupiter goes retrograde. More kind of mental shifts, internal understanding, internal expansion. Sometimes you can only expand internally when the external world is not moving forward. So that's a huge shift. Sagittarians out there are like, thank you, God. Okay. The second big shift we have this week, just starting off, was, you see how Mercury is 0 degrees in Leo? So Mercury is finally gone into Leo. Mercury was in Cancer before. So when Mercury is in Cancer, you know, there's a lot of, you know, feeling things out, not making a move until it's safe. Being very sensitive in your speech, maybe being a little bit roundabout too, you know, not feeling like you were in your power enough, because it's a very creative time when Mercury is in Cancer. Watery signs are very creative in nature, very artistic. But sometimes, you know, they could not want to say something that might upset the apple cart, right? So now that Mercury is in Leo, it's joining the Leo party. We've got 3 planets in Leo right now: Mars, the Sun, and Venus. And now Mercury's there. So we are really, this week, as if we weren't feeling the Leo energy already, we are really in ourselves right now. I love it. I have a moon in Leo, so I really love this energy. But I've been picking up on, you know, the earth signs maybe having a bit of a hard time, because there is a lot of fiery energy going on. And it can be really overwhelming for people. And we also have Chiron in Aries that is trining that Mercury in Leo. So, Chiron is the wounded healer. We're having a lot of issues that Chiron's healing. It's going to be healing over the next several years. And Chiron is sort of like this, if you know the story of Chiron, Chiron had a wound that never healed, went through a whole lot of learning to try to heal the original wound, never healed the original wound, but learned a whole bunch of other stuff to share with other people. So what is your original wound, and what is the collective's original wound that we're all dealing with right now? Well, it's this Aries principle, this warrior-like attitude, this, how do we be assertive? Where's all the places in your life that you weren't in your power, and you weren't being initiatory, and you weren't being independent, and you weren't taking action? Okay? We're all healing this right now. Because, some people only take action when they're pushed to that. They're like aggressive with it. We're not trying to be aggressive here. We're trying to be assertive. An evolved Aries is very assertive and decisive. So in what areas can you be more like that? Well, right now, the Mercury, how we're thinking, how we're communicating, is in communication with that Chiron in Aries. So, I'm thinking at this point, people are really being like, okay, you know what? No, I'm not dealing with this right now. And they're speaking it instead of that Mercury being in Cancer and being like, I don't like this, but, waiting until it's safe to say something and maybe not being upfront about it, maybe waiting for someone to intuit that they're uncomfortable. That Mercury moving into Leo, it's like, I don't really care if you're comfortable or not. I don't really care if this upsets you. This hurts me. So we're needing to deal with this right now. And I think this is a really good sign for a lot of people who have been in a more passive role. All this fiery energy is really, really, really lighting a fire under your ass to figure out yourself and your place in the world. And this is just Monday. We haven't even gotten to Tuesday yet. So the other main things to be aware of that was going on Monday is that we've got all this Leo energy quincunxing this Capricorn energy. Particularly the Sun and Venus is quincunxing the Saturn and the Pluto. And on Monday, the moon is going to be in Capricorn as well, which is conjuncting, so it's touching that south node. So the opposite of this is the north node. So the south node doesn't show up on the chart, but it's at 15 degrees of Capricorn. And that moon is really kind of, we went through this heavy karmic cycle in July where we had two eclipses. We had a solar eclipse in Cancer, and I thought I was going to knock over my microphone. Holy crap. And then we had another lunar eclipse in Capricorn, both very, very heavy, both a lot of collective healing. And what were we healing with the collective? We were healing issues of power, issues of abuses of power in positions of authority in society at large, in what areas where were people out of their strength and out of their power, and in what areas have we given up our need to feel so that we can just function in society. Because a lot of the times, if you are in that impoverished, underrepresented minority, society basically tells you, fuck your feelings, who cares? And this north node in Cancer is not allowing that to happen anymore. And I think that's why we have a whole lot of people losing their minds right now. is because the cosmic north node is pushing us to start purging this coldness and this lack of humanity. And that's one of the things of having the south node in Capricorn at its worst can be cold. It cannot care about the individual person. It just cares about the bottom line. And if you look at America, a lot of the nation is ran by corporate interests who really don't care about a lot of the people that they are serving and that are working for them. And so all this stuff is coming up. On a macro level, that's what's happening on a collective. And I think, when was it? I think it was about like a week and a half ago. We had those 2 shootings within 24 hours. So, I mean, you can tell people like, fuck your feelings, deal with it. And that might work, for a short amount of time. Karma is one of those things where it'll come back and bite you in the ass. You can't just suppress your feelings. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. When you suppress it, it's going to come up later on. It's going to be explosive, and it might not happen in your generation, but it'll happen 3 generations down the line. So it's best to deal with it now. Well, since clearly there's a lot of stuff that wasn't dealt with, now we're all dealing with it with all this South Node and Capricorn energy here. So we've got the Sun and Venus quincunxing this Capricorn energy. So what does that mean? Quincunxes are 5 signs away from the sign that it's quincunxing. It's an irritability. It's a little bit like square energy, but it's not as potent. It's just irritating. It's frustrating. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm really feeling like I'm in my power right now. And I'm really loving myself at the moment. And you know what? Loving myself and doing what's best for me, all that Leo energy, is not really what seems to be best for the other people in my life. This tradition, this is how we've always done it, and this is how we're always going to do it because it's the tried and true method. It's upsetting people who you are, which can be kind of upsetting because who wants to have that wake-up call? Wait a minute, who I am and who I really feel like I truly am is upsetting to you? What is this? Like, what is going on here? And we've got Jupiter also trining this, this Venus and this Sun conjunction and Leo. So it's, trines are flowing energy. So it's expanding this sense of self-love in a very powerful way. And something else I learned from the astrologer Molly McCord, I'm so glad she brought this up because, I've been studying astrology for 15 years now, I mean, off and on my entire life, but really seriously studying it for about 15 years. And I didn't even know about Venus PowerPoints, which is something that happens. Venus, it only has these PowerPoints in 5 different placements in the chart. And it's Leo, Scorpio, Gemini, Aries, and Capricorn, I believe. I might have gotten that wrong, but... So Venus, if you didn't know this, the way Venus orbits, it creates like a 5-point star. It's a part of the Fibonacci sequence. It's like, which is the golden ratio, which is just this beauty and uniformity in nature. And Venus was always thought of as just this most beautiful, like perfect planet, this harmonious planet. And even geometrically, now they're proving with science that her orbit is beautiful and perfect. And there's only 5 signs which Venus will conjunct during her orbit, and it's those 5 signs. So when Venus is at a power point, when it's making that conjunction, it happens once every 8 months. It's a highly, highly potent time where we really start to focus on me, because the sun is the self and Venus is love, and Venus is also creativity and our finances and security. If you think about the two sides of Venus, Libra and Taurus, so Libra is always trying to find balance and harmony and peace, and it beautifies its environment in a very like masculine sort of way. It paints, it draws, it's kind of, Libras are kind of thought about as sort of like Lothario energy, and Taurus is more sensual. It's really in touch with its material needs, its material wants. Very good at acquiring material assets for itself. And so these two planets are conjoining with each other. So it's a sign of really falling back in love with yourself. Very, very potent time. So yeah, so glad to Molly McCord. I love her. You really should check her out. I'm going to link her YouTube channel in the description. I've learned so much from that woman. She is fantastic. So not only do we have this shifting of Sagittarius, you know, going out of retrograde, then we have Mercury going into Leo, then we have all this potent Venus PowerPoint energy going on that's going to be that's going to be opposing that full moon that's coming up on the 15th. So let's get beyond, because again, we're just on Monday. We haven't even gotten to Tuesday yet. So Tuesday is another big shift. Tuesday, Uranus goes retrograde. Uranus is where we get our very, very sudden insights into things. It's our place of rebellion. It's our place where we really assert our independence. Uranus being in Taurus, there's, you know, sort of the vibe I'm getting, there's going to be a whole lot of innovations when it comes to health and medicine and science and technology related to the body. I think for a really long time, people have been disconnected with their bodies, and there's going to be a lot of revelations on how to get back in the body, how to be more sensual. And, you know, especially in America, you know, sensuality is not really quite understood. Sensuality and sexuality tend to be like linked together, and there is some overlap, but they're very different. And part of how we get back in our sensuality is by rediscovering who we are, Leo, and also rediscovering how we feel about things, this cosmic north node in Cancer. So this Uranus going retrograde is very interesting. You know, expect some unexpected shakeups in your relationships. Breakups could happen, random, you know, Uranus is kind of like Jupiter in the sense of Jupiter and Sagittarius, in the sense that Jupiter likes to travel a lot and expand a lot. But it's more, you know, Jupiter seeks to make you bigger. Uranus doesn't want you to be boring. So Uranus will have you moving 3,000 miles across the country because you've been stagnant for too long. It doesn't really care about expanding your consciousness. It doesn't want you to be stuck anymore. It's like a lightning bolt. It's like, we're needing to put you here now. You've been here for too long. So Uranus moving into a retrograde motion. Expect a lot of shakeups going on with your mindsets, with your innovations. Again, when we have retrograde energy, and we've got 4 retrograde planets right now, and if you want to include Chiron, it's an asteroid, but there's 5. There's not a whole lot of forward momentum going on right now. So it's a really good time to just be open to whatever downloads you're getting, if you want to call them that, or whatever insights you're getting from your meditations, or just whatever weird impulses are going on right now. Aquarian energy is pretty electric in how it works. Very electric, actually. And so if you find things and it's squaring this Mercury in Leo right here. So if you find that there's a lot of tension going on that you feel, realize that this tension's going on because you've been stagnant for way too long, and Uranus is coming to shake you up out of that. And sometimes you have to break up this tension by speaking your mind and speaking your truth and speaking what's in your heart. So don't be surprised if you're starting to get agitated. And sometimes when you speak your truth, relationships start going down the drain. And don't be surprised if you start saying things and you're like, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just said that. Well, that's Uranian energy coming out. It's like it takes over your body. Like I said, it's like a lightning bolt that happens. So that's happening today. Uranus just went retrograde today. And it's during part of the day, the moon, and the moon moves very quickly. So it's not like it's going to be squaring it'll be squaring Uranus for part of the day, but then it's going to be moving out of that. So emotionally you can be really feeling the urge to just run away and rebel right now, and because we have both this square going to the moon that's transiting and to Mercury, you might be feeling like you just want to burn every single bridge and be like, fuck it, I'm done. I would strongly advise to not do that. Have some patience during this time. We've got the Sun and Venus are still conjuncting each other, still trining. Now they're just getting out of that. I usually, a lot of people apply like a 10-degree orb. Usually within 5 degrees for the Sun, that's when I feel like it's very potent, and it's just starting to get out of that 5-degree mark. So Jupiter and the Sun and Venus are definitely still talking to each other. It's definitely still expanding upon that sense of self-love. But, they're also big caution, you don't want to be arrogant, right? You don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to be arrogant, but you do want to love yourself. And then you also don't want to go and make yourself small again just because someone tells you you're being arrogant. Maybe you're not actually being arrogant. Maybe you're just finally loving yourself, and they've been trying to put you in a box for just too damn long, and they don't like it when you're in your power. These are issues of discernment. These are little nuances. These are micro adjustments you'll need to make if you start getting really in touch with your heart, which is what Leo is asking us to do. And I mean this on a very physical, like, sensating level. Tune into this right here. Put your consciousness into your heart. If it helps, you can kind of picture, a lot of people are like in their head, and if you can picture yourself like kind of going and taking an elevator down and like feeling into your heart, you can see if there's heaviness there. If something feels heavy, it's a lie. If it's light, it's not a lie. So if someone is telling you you're being really arrogant right now and it's not appreciated, tune into your heart, okay? Because maybe they have a point. Maybe you're being an asshole about it, but maybe you're just in your power. And this is a really good time to start to get to know yourself better on every level. We just got through Cancer season, so we got to feel our emotions. We got to really get in touch with that care, that self-nurturing, that feeling that it's okay to be sensitive and it's okay to feel. And now that we know how to do that, or we should have, we were paying attention during Cancer season, now we can apply that to ourselves. Okay? Best thing to do right now is to just be as kind as possible to yourself. And also knowing that because there's so much fire energy, again, it's like a live wire. I think I was recording some videos and I kept using this reference, but it really is like a live wire, especially Uranus going into retrograde. A lot of intense energy going on right now. for a little bit part of the day. Again, not for very long. The moon will be opposing Mercury, so issues involving the logic, the intellect, the I need evidence first before I make a decision, and the moon, which is more of our emotions, how we feel about something. A lot of the times the moon is the driving force behind our behavior, whether we want to believe that or not. It's kind of like the subconscious mind. So and how it's coming up is that Mercury wants to express itself, and it has some pretty profound truths it wants to talk about with people. And especially because Uranus is definitely demanding that out of Mercury right now. It's like you've got to rebel. And that moon is saying, but I might upset the collective. And I don't know how that's going to affect other people. And also, if I'm too much into myself, I might alienate other people. And there's also this moon just got out of this Capricorn energy, so it's still kind of like, I hope this is what the tribe wants of me. There's these fears there. Again, it's kind of that whole like, well, we've been doing it this way for so long, we're going to continue to do it. Well, the moon, once it starts to make its way fully into Aquarius, is going to be snapping out of that and starting to figure out how to incorporate this innovation and this progressive forward thinking and this need for objectivity versus, it being in itself. Because sometimes Aquarius, that energy, it feels like if it is too much into itself, it'll be too self-absorbed and it'll lose its ability to be objective, which is the gift that Aquarius has. Is that ability to not be affected by other people, to not take things personally, to not be like a child, and look at a situation, and because they're not really involved in it, they're able to give an objective analysis. Well, that's great and all, but you're still a human being at the end of the day. You still have needs. And every human being on the planet is selfish. We just pretend that we're not, and then we pretend that being selfish is a bad thing. So, moving on. We're at the 14th. That Mercury and that Uranus is still squaring. There's still tension going on. There's still things that want to be said, that need to be said, but are we really ready to say them yet? Uranus is really starting to push us towards that. And perhaps, that Uranus is pushing us towards speaking our truth in a public arena. This might be a time where a lot of you are really starting to be in the spotlight. And Uranus is really, it's going to be, if you're someone who's been, that you have a truth to share and you haven't been doing it, Uranus is going to make this very uncomfortable for you. You can try to fight it as much as you want to. You're going to keep getting these impulses to keep going out there, no matter how messy it looks. You just need to go with it and do it. The Sun and Venus are starting to, they're still quincunxing. At this point, they're not quincunxing Saturn anymore, but they are with Pluto. So now we're having now the issues of power are becoming very potent, especially on the 14th, because the Sun and Venus are going to be 21 degrees. Pluto's 21 degrees in Capricorn. This is a very potent time of having issues of power in love, power with sex, even because Venus is quincunxing that Pluto, issues with obsession, jealousy, manipulation, deception. Oh man, it could get ugly really quick, because I think a lot of people are starting to see that they have given their power away. And you're going to be very clear on in what areas you've been giving your power away. And it's going to be very, very uncomfortable, because this is a time when things are like a mirror, especially with this Leo and Aquarius axis. It can be like that with Aries and Libra too, because Aries is the self. It's like this whole, like, I'm here, I'm Aries, I'm cardinal energy, I'm blah, I'm we're gonna do what I want to do. And Libra is always thinking about how it's going to be peaceful and affect other people, and that it's more on an individual level that it's happening. Now with Leo and Aquarius, it's more on a collective level. It's like, yes, we are a part of a tribe and we are a part of a human consciousness, but we're all little individual snowflakes within that consciousness. So then how do we do that? What if the way I want to be is not in line with whatever human beings determine this is how things are going to be? Like, for example, our government. Our government was written by, a specific group of people, white guys, right? And not to say that they did a bad job, but there was a whole lot of people that didn't get a say in the matter. So now, how does this affect society? Aquarius is the one that's thinking about this, that's thinking about the collective, and always looking to the future, and always looking towards, like, how can everyone be free? How can everyone be independent? How can we be a more sophisticated, more inclusive society? And sometimes, Aquarius energy, not to say every Aquarius is like this, but socialism is a very Aquarian sort of idea. And, whether or not you like socialism or not, the idea on paper is to equalize everything, right? And sometimes that's not possible, because individuals will get upset by it. So we have a whole lot of that being presented with us. It's like a mirror effect. I'm loving myself right now. It's feeling really good. And I'm also seeing how other people in my life do not like that I'm in my power at this moment. And I'm also realizing that this might be affecting my tribe if I'm in my power, because we have these dynamics set up already. And, if you change up the dynamics, it can throw people off, because people are used to being in their habitual patternings. They're used to you being a certain way. And sometimes people will manipulate you to be in a certain way, because that serves their interests more. And this is where this Pluto energy is coming from. And, to me, it's very, very karmic. This is ancestral patterns going on. This is how my mother taught me to act. This is how my mother taught me to keep a man in line. And so I'm acting in that way. And sometimes people don't even realize what they're doing. They don't even realize they're being manipulative. Or this is how my father taught me how to keep my wife in line. Or, if you're gay, this is how my mother taught me to keep my partner in line, my wife in line, whatever, to keep my partner in line. This is how I have my power. And Pluto is always underneath the surface. It's not up front. It's what's lingering in the subconscious mind. So a lot of mind games, like I said, mind games, deception, jealousy, obsession, cleanliness, secrecy. And all these things are to keep the power structure in the way it's been. So pretty heavy energy coming up on Wednesday. And then when we get to the 15th, Thursday, This is when we have the full moon. So up until this point, we've been in the waxing phase of the full moon. So it's this building up to the full moon energy. And during a waxing phase, this is when the energies are starting to culminate. We're starting to get some rustlings that something is not right. Or it doesn't necessarily mean that like every single full moon, you know, it's like, oh my God, now my eyes are open and everyone's been lying to me. That's not necessarily how it is. But we do get very clear on some things that were not clear before, because what does a full moon do? It illuminates the darkness. It illuminates the shadows. Sometimes we can just get really clear on what our fears are and just get rid of them. Because sometimes you can be afraid just because it's nighttime. And you think what you see on the ground is a snake, and if you were just turn on the light, you'd realize it was a hose, but the shadows throw things off, right? So full moons can make you very aware of what your demons are, which is why people sometimes go crazy during full moons, you know? Lunatics, lunar, that's where that's coming from. You know, when we have a full moon, that is when you are the height of clarity. And that can be very potent. That can be very energetically chaotic. I know when there's full moon energy, I just don't sleep. It's if you're someone that is a Cancer, if you're someone that has a lot of moon energy in your chart, you know, females in general are very affected by the moon. So we have that energy going on. Okay, so on the 15th, we're at full culmination. That's when that moon is directly 180 degrees. It's opposite. It's opposite of the sun and the Venus. So we have this very potent time along with this Venus power point energy, this rare configuration that only happens every 8 months. We have that going on in the sign of Leo. We also having it conjuncting that Mars. So there's tons of fire energy. And Leo is a masculine sign. So this Venus is really feeling its masculinity at this point, and it's really asking us to be more in touch with our masculine side. We need to take some action. And in what areas do we need to take action in? Well, we need to speak our truth, because Uranus is still squaring that Mercury. And it's almost at a one more degree and it'll be very potent, but we can still start to feel we're already feeling the energies of the square, but it's starting to reach a fever pitch at this point. And it's also asking us to take ourself and our passions and put it out there in the collective. Okay? The Aquarius is collective. It's really asking us to get out there and do the work. And that can be kind of hard during this point, because I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of intense energy going on, and even though we have this drive to get it out there, you know, trying to get a handle on all this energy is pretty difficult. I think by the time we're in Virgo season, and the shift to Virgo season is going to be very pronounced. It's like overnight everything goes into Virgo. Everything's going to quiet down. That'll be really the time to start structuring this new sense of self, this new sense of identity that this Aquarius Leo axis is asking of us. And this Aquarian energy is really asking for innovation here, and creativity and progressive thinking. So the ways in which you've always have done them is not working anymore. Uranus is bored. The moon in Aquarius is bored. And so is your sun in Leo and Venus. It wants to roar. It wants to speak its truth. And on the 15th, we're going to be very aware of what that truth is. I would highly suggest during that time to do a ritual. Pay attention to the fears that are coming up in your life right now. Pay attention to the times when someone's saying something to you, and they might have all the greatest intentions in the world, because when you think about overprotective parents, they keep you in a box because they want you to be safe. And God bless them, but sometimes you can't take the safe route in life your entire life. You just can't do it. I mean, you can, but you'll probably be miserable in the process. And people who are highly successful, they take risks. That's what they do. So this is a time to be bold, to be daring, to take a risk, to, you know, I know it can be difficult, especially when we're talking about playing a certain role for so long. But that period of time is over where you are playing a role in someone else's movie. You need to be the protagonist now. Leo is really, really asking this of you. And it might have been a very long time since you've been the protagonist in your own movie. So you gotta build this lifestyle. It's a new lifestyle that you're building so that you can be the star, and it can be more authentic towards what really drives you, what your purpose is. And I thought I should mention, there is a fantastic book that one of my dear friends, she is a mega Aries, and I just love her to death, Rachel, hello. She told me about this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It will change your life because you will start to realize that success is predicated on your habits. So now that we're having this like Leo energy, really great. We're getting all these downloads as to this next phase in our life, who we really are, what we really want, what our desires are, what really drives us, really feeds our heart, our passions. Well, Virgo will be the time to start making these little micro adjustments to your habit, to start building this into a new lifestyle. So that's on the 15th. So now we're moving on to August 16th. We're just getting out of that potent full moon energy. We're in the waxing phase of the full moon. So now we were aware of who we are, how we want to put that out there into the world. Now we're realizing we got to cut some stuff. Okay. Waxing phase is all about purging. Don't be surprised if you're overly emotional during this point. Go with it. Take baths with Epsom salt or just sea salt in general. It really works. Do some essential oils. Do some rituals where you're writing down all your fears. I think I mentioned this, but I think I went off on a tangent. But write down all your fears. Write down all your fears on a piece of paper as they're coming up during this full moon cycle. And write down things that need to be sacrificed. Write them down on paper. The act of writing it down is a way of taking this concept and making it physical. And then burn it. The way you speak to your subconscious mind is in symbols. So the act of writing it down and burning it is a spiritual process, is an alchemical process, and this is how we release that out into the world. And sometimes we don't really know how we're going to sacrifice things in a way that's serving us and serving other people. And we just allow the universe to help guide us through that, or God, or source, or whatever you want to call that higher interconnectedness that has all the answers. So if we can surrender and sit back and be open to guidance, that will really help us during this time. And I think for a lot of us, we really lost touch with ourselves, and we're rediscovering that. And that involves everything. We're rediscovering how to communicate with people. We're rediscovering how to set our boundaries. We're rediscovering what drives us, what we love. Take some time with yourself. And give up trying to figure it out. We're in fire energy right now, so everything is very impulsive and driven by intuition, and sometimes it can seem to completely lack all rationality. Go with it, obviously within reason. Do not do anything that could harm yourself or others, but really listen to these impulses. So the moon has moved out of Aquarius. It's starting to move into Pisces. we're completing something. Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac. So this is a completion energy before we start moving into that moon in Aries again. So once we go through this purging process through Pisces, once that moon's in Aries, it's going to be time to take some action. So expect Friday to be kind of, well, it might be a pretty emotional day because that energy, the moon's going to be in Pisces. And on Saturday, the moon's going to be conjunct. It's going to be right there, right on top of Neptune. Now, the moon transits pretty quickly, so it'll move out of this sign by Sunday. It'll be, well, later on that day, Sunday, it's going to be in the Aries, and then it's going to be conjuncting Chiron, which I'll get to that in a second. But the moon being in Neptune, or conjuncting with Neptune, and the moon being in Pisces, that moon energy is going to be especially heightened. And that moon and Neptune are going to be sextiling the Pluto energy. So expect a lot of old fears coming up. And again, I want to go back to that reference where when you see something on the ground in the dark and it looks like a snake and you turn the light on and you realize it's really a hose, that could be a lot of what we're experiencing during Saturday. Really start addressing your anxieties and figuring out, is this actually real or not? Because most likely it's not real. It could be a highly productive, a highly creative time. You could be having a lot of spiritual downloads during this time. Because this North Node is going to be trining this moon and Neptune, I think it's going to be a highly potent spiritual day for a lot of you. If you can really tune into that and feel into that, I think that'll really help you out a lot. I think there's going to be a profound feeling of unconditional love during this day. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs on Saturday. Don't be surprised if you feel like you're kind of manic, because it's like you could find yourself weeping and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh my God, I feel so connected to everything and I'm so forgiving and I'm so loving. And then you're back to weeping again. And then there's a bunch of anxiety and you're like, am I making this up? I don't know what's real or not anymore. Do whatever you can to ground during this day. If you can like walk around barefoot or go to the beach or sit under a tree, that would be a time to really do that to help ground some of this energy so that you don't feel like you're super spacey, because this could be a very spacey day. And what else? Am I missing anything? Well, we've got Chiron. We have Chiron still trining that Mercury. Now, Mercury is just moving so that it's within 6 degrees of completely trining this Jupiter right here. So now that we've sort of had this purging process and we're going through this purging process of how we feel emotionally and who we are and what needs to be cut out, Jupiter is now communicating with Mercury here, and Mercury, you know, that's working with our thinking process, and it's expanding upon that, and it's giving us more and more blessings and insight onto how we go about changing our thinking for this new lifestyle and what's more in alignment with us. And again, whatever planet Jupiter is communicating with, it's giving it a blessing. So really, we've got this North Node giving all these spiritual downloads to this moon and Neptune, and then we've got Jupiter blessing Mercury. Highly potent day for enlightening revelations, okay? So now we're moving into Sunday. You can't quite see it yet with this chart because I set the time for noon, but when we're in the later day Sunday, we've got that moon is going to be moving into Aries. So we're going to have a couple of days where we're in our feelings and we're purging and we're crying and we're smiling and we're laughing and we're all over the place. And then we're going to have that moon in Aries that's like, okay, time to wipe my tears and start getting work done. And there's going to be more. Now, there's going to be this initiatory energy towards doing work, but then we also have to keep in mind that Chiron's going to be touching our moon. So again, more deep wounds are going to be coming up. There's going to be we're going to be more in touch with our deep wounds and realizing like, wow, this affected me more than I thought it did. Interesting. Again, in ways of in Aryan nature, so in ways that we haven't been asserting ourselves, in a way that we haven't been taking action, in a way that we haven't been in our independence. And it's depending on how out of touch we've been with it, this could be another day where we're really kind of in our feelings a little bit. Okay, so just be aware of that. Whenever we have a full moon, give yourself 3 or 4 days after the full moon to really come back to reality a little bit. You really want to allow that full moon energy to just permeate throughout your body, get all the gunk out so that you can move forward with a clear mind. Mars has just gone into Virgo. So it's still touching that Venus, but it's in a different sign now. So I think that's really helping to mellow out a lot of this fire energy. Like what I was saying, there's going to be, if you've been getting into arguments with people, because Mars and Leo can be pretty melodramatic, Mars in Virgo is not anywhere like that. It's way more quiet. It's way more subdued. It plans things out, and it is very analytical, and it makes sure it has all the appropriate evidence before it goes out and it makes a decision. And so this is a very good time to start improving upon your skills. If you realize that you need to change your profession, this is a good time to start improving upon your skills. That Mars energy is going to really help to motivate you towards paying more attention to details, honing in on your abilities, sharpening them. If you're someone who writes, this could be a very potent time to start writing, typing things down. And that pretty much sums up this week. So, like I said, there's like 3 or 4 major shifts this week. So this week is going to kind of be up and down, up and down. Go with it. Be kind to yourself. Understand everyone's going through it too, even if they're not showing it. And definitely be open to a lot of really potent downloads on Friday, Saturday. So that's my analysis for this week. Thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe to my channel if you feel like it resonated with you. I will be posting weekly astrology readings and tarot readings for each sign. So with that, I bid you adieu. Have a good one, guys.